Okay, for some reason we've not had the intro start there, Dave.
I'm singing along to somebody's start there.
It's good, isn't it? It's a good start. No, we're having
Yeah, sure, I have that effect on things.
a few technical issues going on there. I'm just going to make sure that we are actually going out live as soon as I can get in. We should be. I'm going to let us know. Well, basically, those that are listening to you, welcome to Zone Unknown Radio. We are broadcasting exclusively on the Blog Talk Radio Network, which we are happy to do until it all goes pear-shaped like this. But we are going to soldier on regardless. So, basically, how are you, Dave? I've got Dave Sadler. We're missing Stu this week again. Basically, get well soon, Stu. He's a bit under the weather. So, I hope you come back soon. Hopefully, he'll be back with us next week. How are you, Dave?
Yeah, cause we do need some stability. We need somebody to keep us down and normal, don't we, really? Yes, I'm fine. Been very busy. I've just walked in 10 minutes ago from my daughter's 6th birthday party, so I'm actually doing the show with Batman face paint on.
Excellent.
Pretty novel.
I saw the picture, actually, and I thought, no, he's not really. And Sam said, no, he's going to be doing the show with the Batman makeup on. And I didn't believe her. But,
well, I can assure you I am Bat Dave tonight.
Right, well, we've also got, you might have heard his voice, we've got Doug Pickford with us. Welcome to you, Doug.
It's an absolute pleasure to be with you. It really is.
Sorry that it's all a bit rushed tonight and that we've got a few gremlins, but it happens,
hey,
you know.
As I said, I have that effect, so just blame me. It's quite all right, it's quite usual.
Oh, that's all right. No problem. Well, Doug, I've been sort of researching some of the stuff you've done this week, and you are a very busy man indeed. Author, freelance writer. Do you want to tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Oh, gosh, where do you begin, really? Yeah, I've been in newspapers all my life for 50 years plus, too many years. On national papers, weekly papers, and radio, TV. Yeah, I've been everywhere, man. You know, that's that song says, you know, and it's a time of life when I should be putting my feet up, but hey, you know, you can't, can you? You know, you can't. But where do you begin? Well, I suppose. Oh, grief.
Well, you started off writing for a local paper, didn't you?
Yeah, one of the first. I was with all the local papers around Manchester, southern Manchester, you know, places like Macclesfield and Winslow, Audley Edge, Sale, Altrincham, etc., Stockport, and you know, it's those times I got involved with the Moors murders trials and this, that and the other. And then The Witches of Audley Edge was probably the first time that I brought my interest into the journalistic world, if you like. I don't know if anybody's aware of the place called Audley Edge. It's South Manchester. It's now a National Trust forest, well, a wood, really. And there was a quite a well-known, well, he's still with us, Alan Garner, a very author, The Weird Stone of Brissingham, etc., The Red Shift. Quite well known. He grew up on the Edge, and I'm a great friend of Alan's. And he introduced all places on the Edge through his work, etc. But yeah, I was a cub reporter on the Winslow Advertiser. It's one of those local papers that if you coughed, you were, you know, they put it in the paper. The good old newspapers, as it were.
All right.
And there'd been rumours on the Edge, which is a big escarpment overlooking Cheshire and Manchester and Liverpool and Stoke-on-Trent, that there were witches on the Edge. Now, nobody really knew what these witches were, but they knew that the witches were on the Edge. We're talking about 1960, whatever that, frozen to death, 62. And so I I had this idea that we'll go up and see the witches on the edge and do a feature on them. So I persuaded this photographer that Halloween's the best time and midnight's even better at Halloween. So pouring down rain, pitch black, in the middle of a forest on top of a cliff. Okay, you've got the picture.
Yeah.
Idiots that we both were, we didn't take a torch or anything with us. So we were falling over here, there and everywhere. And eventually, because he got a flash with his camera, he would just set off his flash and we would be able to see for a brief second where we were supposed to be going. We didn't know where we were going, but we knew that we were going somewhere. We found the witches.
Found them.
It was a wonderful sight to behold. Midnight, pouring with the rain, absolutely soaked to their skins. There were about 10 people there. They were dancing in a circle. They were manufacturing a pyramid, a healing pyramid, and also they were initiating a very young Maxine Saunders as the Witch Queen of the North. She was about 18 at the time. And what she was then doing was she was standing on a place called Stormy Point, which is on the escarpment at Alderley Edge. Alderley Edge is now footballers' wives and everything. It's all the posh houses. But Maxine was there. She was standing on, 17-year-old blonde, standing on the escarpment there, looking out, and she was queen. She was a witch queen of the North, being initiated. She was of all she surveyed. So she was the witch queen of straight ahead was Liverpool and everywhere, and Wales, and to her right was Manchester, as I say, to the left was going down to Shropshire, and you could see the reeking from there, not at midnight on a cold, black October night, but she was soaking wet, obviously, and they made us very welcome, I have to say, very, very welcome, and the result of it was, I mean, they were great people. They were there for no other reason. They weren't into the black arts or anything. They were there just for the pleasure of being there. I must say that when we put the story, it's a weekly newspaper, so the following week the story went in, and everyone and the dog went up to the edge in the hope of seeing a 17-year-old blonde in a white negative and these daft guys dancing around the fire. Of course, they'd gone. She did appear, I think it was in News of the World, surprise, the week after, and she became very, very famous. I'm sure that people listening to this, a number of them will know about Maxine. And she's still going very strong, bless her. She's a lovely lass now. She's living in South Manchester still.
Wow.
And
was it scary, Doug, when you first saw it?
Well, it didn't scare me because I'd grown up with it. But to say that the photographer would be an understatement. And I won't, because we're on air, I wouldn't say anything else if he was doing, but he wasn't a happy bunny.
Right.
He did not know what I'd led him into. And, especially when he saw the fire and them dancing around. So he was, the Hammer horror things, you expect something like that, or the Dennis Weekly. Nothing, of course, like that, but that's what people's perceptions. So
for people who don't know Alderley Edge, Doug, Alderley Edge is it's a place basically northeast Cheshire. It's part of the exclusive triangle of Wilmslow, Prestbury, and Alderley Edge, where all the rich people, as Doug said earlier, the footballer wives live. But there's a lot of other profound things around Alderley Edge itself. The Edge, the main one that most people know is the wizard Merlin allegedly came to the site, and King Arthur and all his battalion are underneath the edge somewhere when England goes to war in the future. There's a lot of other things there. There's carvings. There's the wizard's well. copper mines that you can still go into today with Derbyshire Caving Club. It's an absolutely fantastic and beautiful location, and as he said, it's protected by the National. Is it the National Trust?
It's the National Trust, yeah.
Absolutely. So anybody in the northwest who does get the opportunity to go to Alderley Edge, go on down there. Forget about the township. Forget that. It's full of people who think there's something that they're not. Go up to the Edge. It's beautiful to take the kids for a walk and learn all about the history and the mystery of the Edge itself.
I think you summed it up there, Dave. It really is. It's well worth going. Highly recommended. But don't go to see the witches now. They ain't there. Well, they are, but not at Halloween. As a result of that, and as a result of all the coverage, because TV cameras went and everything, the following year, they were, and there was nothing to see. People to this day go to the Edge on Halloween. It draws people. The police have to barricade off the roads and tell people, please don't go. You're going to go falling down the copper mines. You're going to go falling over the tree roots. But the magnetism is still there. There's a lovely story about during the Second World War when the certain learned professors from Manchester University went to the Edge because they believed it was one of the emperors, the native rules of the belly button of the world, which is a long story, but they went to try to do something about Mr. Hitler, Herr Hitler, and his possible invasion of Britain then. And it was one of the sites that a number of learned people went to throughout the country. You perhaps heard in Kent there was a very, very famous gathering of the clans down there to do just the same thing. Mm-hmm. That was one of the places it attracts. And as I say, I suppose in a way I'm responsible for the police having to go every Halloween now to warn people away. But don't go on Halloween. Go at another time. I'm not going to tell you when, but anybody who knows about the craft will know the times to go and the dates to go. So you might find them then.
Excellent. Well, there seems to be places dotted all around the country, Doug, that have got this air of mystery and magic about them. Where do you think this comes from? Because as I say, I've been looking at the stuff you've written, and I don't want to say metaphysical because people take it out of context. You know what I mean? Because people that use the word metaphysical don't really know what metaphysical means. But it seems all magical and mystery. Where did your interest in that come from specifically? And why do you think there are so many places around Britain specifically that are thought of as magic and mystical?
Well, first of all, there are places all over the world, obviously. Mm-hmm. And how did I get involved? Well, I grew up with it. It was in the family. The family come from a place not too far away from Alderley Edge. It's between Buxton in the Peak District and Leek in North Staffordshire, near Alton Towers, for anybody who doesn't know, mm-hmm. or might know very slightly the area. And it's a group of hills, rocks, called, not very imaginatively, the Roaches, which is French for the rocks. And this place is one of those magical, mysterious places. My ancestors, about 400 years ago now, they were squatters on the Roaches themselves. It was in those days before, you could do it. It was legal up until a few months ago, actually, mm-hmm. Earlier this year, when the squatters' rights were changed. But they could come, and they would have to build a house, 4 walls, a roof, and have smoke coming out of a chimney in 24 hours.
Wow.
If they could do that, they could claim squatters' rights. Now, my family was one of them. Quite a number of them up there. So it's cold in July. There's a story of one place, which I might come to in a bit. In July, one year, a farmer brought ice from around there to the local market to sell the ice. That's how cold it gets.
Wow.
And it's foggy, and it's misty, and it's magnificent. around there. There's healing stones by the score. There's the legends of Gawain and the Green Knight around there. Some of Tolkien's inspiration came there for The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. A magical, mysterious, wonderful place. Now, that's where I grew up. That's from a family that lived for hundreds and hundreds of years. A great, great aunt, Hannah Pickford. She was a wise woman. She was one of many throughout the country. I think every locality had at least one wise man, wise woman, and she would have been burnt as a witch at one time. Well, she wouldn't, because we didn't burn them in England, did we? But she would have been accused of witchcraft, etc., and she would have been tortured, etc. But she was a midwife. She was a herbalist, you know.
Yeah.
There was no national health. And it was quite an innocent pastime in its way. But she knew the magic arts. She knew what to do. She knew how to make people better. She warded off the evil eye. Now, what was the evil eye? There were people, still are today, to a great extent, who would knock on a farm door or a small cottage in the hills and say, I want your hens, or your pig, or your wife, or whatever, Or if you don't, I'll give you the evil eye, and I'll put the evil eye on you. What was the evil eye? Well, the evil eye was the fear that it could happen. And it's like everything. If you believe strongly enough something will happen, it's happen.
Yeah.
And that's what these people were frightened of. So what did she do? She made amulets and told them, wear that and it'll ward off the evil eye. It's simple, That's all it was, whether the amulets did it or the belief.
Yeah.
The mind is, as you know, it is so strong, and you can do anything. You believe in anything, you can do it. And you're 15, 16, 17 years old, you can take on the world, can't you? And if we could bottle that when we were my age, walking around with a walking stick and everything, wouldn't it be magnificent? Go to Boots the chemist and say, I want a bottle of that, please. And if you could do that belief, the belief that you're Superman, so that's it. You could do it. And she used to tell them that they'd be okay. I mean, there was one time when a guy cut two of his fingers off. He was using a scythe, and they took him to Anna. And then she went into the ship in the cowshed, and she got some cobwebs, and she put them on his fingers. Well, on the stumps that were his fingers, and he healed it. The Egyptian, the mummies, they part of the mummification process was cobwebs. So it's obviously something from way, way, way back. And I remember I was giving a talk many years ago, and I mentioned about Aunt Anna, and it was a talk local to where she had been. And there was a lady on the front row. She was in the 90s then. She said, I remember your your great-great-aunt, Anna. I was 3 at the time, so you can tell I was talking, what sort of time ago we were talking. I said, and they took me, I'll never forget it, they took me to her because I had a bad throat. And she produced a jar with a frog in.
Right.
I think it was a frog, or it was a toad, or it was it was a frog, I think. And she put the frog in a handkerchief, and she said, "Open your mouth, little girl." And she put this handkerchief in the mouth with the frog in it, and she pushed it down the throat.
Wow.
And then she pulled it back again. How horrible is that?
Yeah.
Well, hey, have you ever heard of a frog in it, eh?
I have. Yeah, I wonder where it comes from.
I'm not saying it is, but I just wonder if it could be. And I said to her, well, did it do the trick? I can't remember, I was so terrified. A 3-year-old girl having it down her throat. For goodness sake.
See, I love that. I do. I love all that. I did a lot of research on like the Pendle witches. You know that the ones that everyone's the Pendle witches and the witches of Mistley Woods in Essex. I spent a night down there in the woods where Matthew Hopkins swam the witches and all that.
Oh yeah.
And it's awful. You know the persecution.
Oh yeah.
To this day, I mean, if you think a witch, you still picture a woman with a black hat standing around a corner and dropping bits of lizards.
It's a stereotype that we've been taught, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's absolutely fascinating the fact that all these cures, these herbal cures, exist, and we've pretty much turned our back on them, haven't we? The old way. Of course we have.
Of course we have. Yeah, I mean they were necessary because there was no national health.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted a doctor, you had to be very rich because he would take the money from you before you know. And yeah, it had to be. But yes, we knew about them. I mean, we knew about the willow bark. You know, we use aspirin now, and that sort of thing. And we knew about the power of suggestion as well. We've had to use it, and we know about dandelion leaves making it's good for your urine tracts, etc. You know, and this, that, and the other. And we still know about them. If anybody wants to get to sleep at night, you just get a bit of lettuce, put it on a bit of white bread, cheap white bread, the cheaper the better. Put it on there and eat that. You don't need any sleeping pills. That'll do the trick.
It's your next book now, Doug. Herbal remedies.
Auntie Anna's homemade remedies.
That'd be brilliant.
Was it the Clampets with what was the name? Yes, the granny's rheumatism med. You know, she had in the Clampets, the Beverly Hillbillies. Yeah. So there we are. So I grew up with that. My father was he was a healer, and he was my grandfather. He was a seer. He looked into the future and into the past. And my great grandfather, besides being a poacher and this, that, and the other, he was nearly sent to Australia for being a poacher.
Mm-hmm.
And this, that, and the other. He traded in the magic art. So you know, it's in the blood. And it's in the blood that I grew up with it on the Roaches, this wonderful place. And interestingly, I was just mentioned about the Hobbit and etc. Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
He was from Birmingham, or the Birmingham area, as many of us know. And he apparently came to that area of North Staffordshire and the Peak District during his early childhood. And he got interested in the local tales of Gawain and the Green Knight. Now, Gawain and the Green Knight is a medieval poem, and it's a classic of its day. It's very hard to read. It's written in Middle English, you know, and it's a bit like reading Chinese or whatever, because it's not for the faint-hearted.
Mm-hmm.
But it tells of Gawain and the Green Knight, and the Green Knight being beheaded and coming back to life, and it's all about death, rebirth, chivalry, the hidden arts of the pentacle, the Winter King and the Summer King and the fights, etc., etc. It all goes back to pre-Celtic legend. However, it also incorporates the Arthurian legends, of which there are many. Now, Dave mentioned about All the Edge there, and the legends of Merlin and King Arthur there. There are legends of King Arthur in these particular rocks, but there's also the Gawain legend. Now, I grew up with that legend. It wasn't till the first person who was supposed to have brought it into the public eye that it was probably that area where this Gawain and the Green Knight, the same time as the Canterbury Tales. That's the time we did. It was Tolkien, who did it. And he is said, now I've never found the proof of this, and I wish I could, he is said to have had inspiration for The Hobbit from this area we're talking about in North Staffordshire and the Peak District. And someday I will find the ultimate proof of this. It's one of those elusive searches. He did translate Gawain and the Green Knight into modern-day English. He was one of the first translators of this, and he did mention in that he thought a place called Lodge, a magical, mystic, again, an amazing place, was the so-called Green Chapel, which anyone who knows about Gawain and the Green Knight will know that the Green Chapel is where the Green Knight and Gawain meet for their second battle, their tournament, and after a year and a day. And this place is called Lud Church, or Lud's Church. Now, Lud is Celtic, the sun god Lud, who goes about the sky and he fires his golden arrows and shafts of sunlight down to the ground. And this is the domain of Lud. Now, Lud's daughter in mythology was Danu, D-A-N-U. Mm-hmm. The River Danube is named after her, and quite a few places. And running right by, well, just below this chasm, this fantastic, amazing chasm called Lud Church, is the River Dane, D-A-N-E. And that is derived from Danu as well, the water spirit, that's his daughter. Right. So this is a place that whoever wrote, this anonymous person, the author of Gawain and the Green Knight, knew all about this. And all the hints and everything are in this amazing work. It's amazing. It's supposedly written by a monk. And there was a local Cistercian abbey there, quite nearby, called Julacress, and it's supposed to be written by this mysterious monk at Julacress Abbey. It's a place that perhaps, well, that Dr. John Dee, Queen Elizabeth Majors, the seer who Queen Elizabeth I used, he's supposed to visit you. Robin Hood has been there, allegedly, and so has, surprise, surprise, Arthur and Gawain, etc., etc. Another place that if you haven't been, when you're going to Audley Edge, go to Lud Church as well. It'll take some finding. Yeah. But it's well worth it if you can find it. I promise you.
Yeah, I can wholeheartedly agree with Doug on Lud's Church. It's a bit of a walk to get to if you go from.
It's a bit of a hike, isn't it?
Yeah, is it the youth club, the youth place
the
there at Cradback?
Yeah.
The hostel, yeah. Take a walk from there. I mean, I've got asthma and I'm a big lad, and it nearly killed me getting there, but it was worth it. And incidentally, we had Paul Kimball on last week. Paul's also produces some books, and I've been lucky enough, Paul, to ask me to put a compilation of articles together to go into a book, and I've actually done one on Lud's Church. So, a fascinating place, absolutely. But I'm just saying that because I wish I spoke to you first.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's well worth it. Now, I was on TV with BBC4. It's one of those programs that nobody watches, you know what I mean? About midnight and some midweek on BBC4. And it was about Gawain and the Green Knight. But the amazing thing was, and as I say, as Dave mentioned, it's not an easy place to find. If you know it, it's easy. If you don't know it, it's very difficult to find. And it just happened to coincide with that weekend was bank holiday. And the number of people who went up there, the local people who didn't know it existed until they saw it on national TV, was amazing. We're talking in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And it's not a place that you can pack hundreds and hundreds of people into. And it's not a place to go in bad weather either. It really isn't. But, that's it. It's things on our own doorsteps that we don't appreciate. It's anywhere in England, anywhere in Scotland, Wales, in Europe or whatever. We do not appreciate what we've got on our doorstep. These magical, fantastical.
I'm going to add that to my bucket list, definitely. I love all that.
What I can say to you guys, I mean, you've been over to my house. I live in Congleton. Doug knows exactly where that is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Ellesmere Port originally, and obviously growing up in Ellesmere Port, going over the border into North Wales and seeing what was local to me. When I moved to Congleton, the first thing I did was get out and about and learn about the area, get an OS map and learn about the little places.
Mm-hmm.
I had two of Doug's books. Unfortunately, I borrowed them out and, hey, never saw them again. But I was lucky enough to learn from the likes of Doug's books and other things about the Roaches, about Lud's Church. Was it Alan Garner who wrote Brisingamen Stone?
Yeah, the Weirdstone.
Yeah. The likes of that, I read all these books, and it opened my eyes. And honestly, these places are, within half an hour's drive from my house, Gary. They're absolutely immense to go to. Up in Castleton's the same, how beautiful Castleton is, and the potential links again to King Arthur. It's a very Arthurian landscape that little is known about because obviously other places like Glastonbury take precedence over. So, yeah, as Doug says, we're very lucky for the area that this area, this Staffordshire, Cheshire borders, Derbyshire that we live in is fantastic for things like Lud's Church and the Roaches, etc.
Yeah, if you've heard of Mike Harding, the Rochdale Cowboy, famous folk singer.
Brilliant man.
Yeah, great guy. Well, he will tell anyone who wants to know about the Arthurian connections of, shall we say, Cheshire and Staffordshire and Derbyshire, really. Yeah. He's quite an authority on it. And the Green Man as well, which Gawain and the Green Knight's all about. But also in the same area, and we'll move on in a minute from there because, there's loads of other places to talk about. But I was talking about the healing stones. Now, there are 3 well-known stones in that area. One's called the Board Stone, one's called Ball Stone, and one's called the Bald Stone. All very, very similar. The first one, BAWD stone, the Board Stone. And it's a glacial wingmatic on 3 small stones or rocks. Not too small, it's about 10 feet high. And it's one of these places, these rocks that nobody's quite sure whether they came down in the Ice Age or whether they were placed on these 3 stones. It would have taken some doing, but it's one of the healing stones. And what happened on May the 1st every year is this particular stone, about 10 feet high, was painted white. And just on May Day, and people from all over, literally all over, who were poorly, were brought to this spot on one of the highest spots in these rocks. Flash, the highest village in England, and probably Great Britain, is only a mile down the road. So you can tell what heights we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And they will be there, and then they will be made to walk, to crawl, to creep underneath this rock. Which was probably about 18 inches, 2 feet, and it's muddy and it's cold and it's not the most welcoming of places. And they would do this to knock the devil off their backs. And there were queues and queues of these people throughout the day, from 30, 40, 50 miles away. But it's not the only one. Only down the road, at a place called Nipesey, very close to where you are, Dave. There's Greenway Country Park where there's Gorton's Stone. Similar sort of thing, a large boulder on 3 rocks, and the same thing happened there. They're in Scotland, they're in England, they're in Wales. Well, there was no more in England that I know of. They're in Wales, they're in Ireland. The creep stones are called. Magical stones. And then you got, coincidentally, the Ball Stone, the fact that where the fires of Baal, the Beltane fires are lit, quite close. And there's a wonderful guy called Frank Parker who is on his land. He's a mushroom farmer, mad professor I call him. He's a great guy. And we have this crazy. Well, it's not so crazy. We had this idea, me and him, that we if the Beltane fires when the fires were lit at Beltane, and the animals and people would jump through the fires and be pushed through the fires to cleanse them of the winter, etc., etc. And our theory was, if the fires were lit there'd be charcoal. And so we started to dig. And lo and behold, we found charcoal. We found about a foot of charcoal. And in the charcoal, Frank discovered it turned out to be a silver ornament. And it was, a long time ago, there was a book brought out where they had a competition to try and find a hair in the moon. Forget the name of the Masquerade, it was called, by Kit Williams. And some beautiful pictures in there. They had to lose and find this silver and gold hair jumping over the moon. Anyway, it wasn't the same thing, but it was a hair, very coincidentally, hair jumping over the moon. I think it dated back to Celtic times. I had the faintest idea. Frank gave it to his daughter, and it cleaned up pretty well. And then, a few years ago, I said to him, can I just have a look at the hair in the room again? Oh, she's lost it. He's put it away somewhere and it's gone. I don't think it's gone forever. But so she can't find it at the moment. She will do one day, hopefully. So that was the second of the stones, and the third one's Bald, B-A-L-D stone. Again, very similar. Just down the way from this, again, a huge rock. It's tilted, and there's a bald stone farm there. And the story behind that is that back in the days of John Wesley, the Methodist preacher, the guy who brought Methodism and the Ranters, etc., as a protest against the Protestant religion, they went with a fervour, the early Methodists, to rid the area of ghosts, belief in ghosts, belief in the supernatural, etc., etc. Now, if you know this area, you'll know it's wild, as I said. And the people, bless them, because half of them in my family, they're wild still, And they, according to this Methodist preacher, this Wesleyan preacher, they were worshipping the stone. Now, what he meant by worshipping the stone, I do not know. But according to the preacher, that's what they were doing. So they had this stone toppled. It was bald stone then. It was toppled. It was one rock on top of another. The top rock was toppled over, hence bald stone, because its head wasn't there. It lost its hair at its top, if you like. But next door to it, they opened in the farmhouse. They opened a chapel in one of the rooms where all the locals had to go and pray, etc. And that was called New Stone. It's still called New Stone. So you've got the bald stone and the New Stone. So we're talking late 1700s.
Right.
And who allegedly were worshipping stones in that area.
Were they persecuted for that, Doug?
They were mocked. They weren't persecuted. It wasn't illegal to do that, but and it's a place that you didn't go up to if you could help it, because the natives weren't all that friendly, shall we say. Talking of Flash, the highest village in England, there's a place called Three Shires Head there, where the three counties of Derbyshire, Staffordshire, and Cheshire meet. And our Three Shires Heads, strange tales are told, because this is where they used to go, the Flash coins. If somebody's called Flash, a Flash person now, as people are called, it's from this village. Right. Shakespeare used it in one of his plays. And they were quite, allegedly coiners and counterfeiters. And they went to the fairs, etc., to get rid of the counterfeit money, allegedly. But that was right. But there we go. And, this is the sort of place we learn. The Tinkers and the Gypsies, the Romanies, We call them Romans now. It's a place of God. There's a girl who still reads tarot cards the Romany way around here. She's descended from them, and she is a marvellous. I mean, I'm not doing an advert for her, but she's the best tarot reader you could in Great Britain. I'll be bound, because it's in her blood, and she comes down from the gypsies and the flash people who are there. I could go on about this area, but there's plenty of more places, we could talk about.
Well, you mentioned that particular one in your book, Earth Mysteries of the Three Shires.
Right, yeah. That's very good of you to read that one.
Earth Mysteries, Doug.
Yeah.
Expand on that a little bit more.
Mysteries, right. The mystery is that we've lost the senses that we did possess.
I was going to ask you about that. You must be psychic, because I was going to mention that. I was going to say, why is it forgotten? Why is it mocked, laughed at now? When anybody can go to these places, a place that they are told is magical, and they will feel it.
Go on, sorry.
It's just a shame that it seems to have been lost all this time, doesn't it?
It has been. Lost is perhaps not just thinking it. We've had it knocked out of us. I mean, I think every child up to a certain age, 3, 4, 5, they have imaginary friends. They see things. They know exactly what's going on. They sense. I mean, and the bond between a mother and the baby, for instance.
Yeah.
That's over and above one of our 5 senses. We've all got that, but in the main, we've all certainly since Victorian times, we've had it knocked out of us. Literally knocked out of us by some of the school teachers who used to use a cane and the slipper, etc. And it's got we're talking. I've got this imaginary friend called John, and and he comes to announce me this, that, and the other, and then I've seen a great granny, and blah blah blah. Oh, that's a load of rubbish. Go, and that's what we don't mention it in many ways now, because we're mocked because society likes to do that thing. Because I'm not going to blame the church, I'm not going to blame society, I'll blame the Victorians. We were told that everything that was in the church was good, everything that wasn't in the church was bad. It was black and white, that's it. And it isn't. There are borderlines between everything. And we can go now, we've still got those, we've got the 5 senses, hearing, touch, smell, hearing, whatever, sight. And we've got far more. We've got far more than that. And one of them's common sense, and another one that we have is a sense of the awareness, of actually the spirit of the place, and to, you can walk into a house and think, oh, this is a nice house, or you can walk into a house and think, oh, I don't like this place. But you don't know why, but you've got that instant awareness. And you can meet a person and you can think, oh, there's something a bit strange about that guy, or, oh, it's not a nice person, are you a nice person? And there are people who act as, when I say vampires, I'm talking about Dracula and all this, they are energy vampires who can unknowingly in the main suck the energy from you. And they don't know what they're doing. Some people know that is happening, and they can put up these barriers, but other people aren't aware of it, especially if you're a bit run down. You get the people coming up, oh, it's just a shame you're ill, and they're all the time sucking whatever energy there is out of them. That's another thing that we've lost the awareness of to a great extent, and that's what a lot of people used to play on. So, it's something to do with society, it's something to do with, everything that doesn't follow our way of life is wrong, because we know better than anybody else, and It's very, very sad, but yeah, you can go to these places. You can go to Stonehenge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the last time I was at Stonehenge, it's pouring with rain, absolutely pouring. It was just a normal day at Stonehenge, and my wife and I were standing on the proper place, the public place, you know, and you've got the little bit
path.
of
To
keep you away. And there was me, my wife, two lads. I call them lads, teenagers. Now they got the tracksuits on, you know, and they got the baseball cap on. So the instant assumption is, oh, the chads or whatever, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they got a can of courage. So again, the instant assumption is, oh, you know, these lads are going to make trouble or anything. They were great guys, but my wife and I just stood there, and these two lads just stood there in awe of Stonehenge, as you do, wanting to touch the stones. And one of the lads said to the other, this is, I won't swear, but he said, you know, this is blah, blah, magic.
Mm-hmm.
And they were taking in the sense of the place. They were feeling what I mean, so many centuries of everything. A lot of churches have the same input in. They've had the stone walls have absorbed everything, and Stonehenge has absorbed everything over centuries and centuries and centuries. And those two lads were experiencing that. Along came a coachload of tourists, and they walked over the grass straight to the stones. Okay, I would like to have done that. And then they went back into the coach. And it was a bit like Benny Hill. You know, the Benny Hill show when he's chasing all these Canterbury fan ladies and diddle. And after that, around touched Stonehenge, which he shouldn't have done, away they went. They hadn't got any idea because he could just tick it off that they're into Stonehenge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that coachload of people, you know, they hadn't the faintest idea why they were there, well, unless they paid big money to go there.
Mm-hmm.
But those two lads didn't want to move, and they were still there. And those lads they were energised by it. My wife and I, we were energised by it. And it's same with Avebury. You know, how many, and it's the same. It's the same at Glastonbury in a way. You know, oh dear, poor Glastonbury. I think I'm banned from Glastonbury. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. It's magical. It's wonderful, but some of the rubbish that started about Glastonbury.
Yeah.
It's a great place. I would challenge the Arthurian connections of Glastonbury, and but I would recommend anyone who hasn't gone to go for the experience and the being there in the sense of place. Glastonbury undoubtedly has been one of these magnets, as is Stonehenge, you know, so many places throughout. The British Isles, I think, has got one of the, well, we certainly got more of these magical places than most. Or we still got the remembrance of these magical, mysterious places.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of countries have lost it. I think France has, in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, in Italy, there's the Carnac. Amazing stone, the avenues of stones and everything. But it doesn't feel the same as the avenue of stones at Avebury, for instance. Mont Saint-Michel, St. Michael's Mount in Normandy, has lost everything now.
Yeah.
But what an amazing place that's been over the years. We've got the equivalent St. Michael's Mount in Cornwall. That's lost it. That's gone. Because we've forgotten what was there. And it's just, the French St. Michael's Mount is just merely what it is, a tourist attraction on a hill now.
Yeah.
And all the shame. And unfortunately, dare I say, Glastonbury is becoming a tourist attraction now.
Absolutely.
And with that, it's being whitewashed a bit and sanitised.
Well, it's people need to try this stuff. I mean, I consider myself a pretty level-headed person, and I've stood at Avebury. I did a so-called paranormal investigation of the pub in the middle of it, the Red Lion.
Oh, the Red Lion.
But during the day, I went to the Stones, and the first thing that strikes you is how did the people build a ditch that size with antlers? That's the first thing that strikes you, a ditch that big. But you can do it, you can feel it. I mean, I stand in my garden early hours of the morning. I'm one of these people that can't sleep, and I do all my best thinking and worrying in the early hours of the morning. And I'll stand out in the garden and I'll look up at the stars and I think, wow, I'm part of that. I'm not detached from it. I'm actually part of that. And I don't go hugging trees and stuff like that. But it seems to me we've lost this connection we've got with the world around us. Instead of being in a partnership with us, you know, we are kind of against it now. That, you know, we're destroying it, and we've lost that sense of we are part of it and we need to look after it. You know what I mean?
I like you. I like the word connection. I think you've got it spot on there. You know, we are not connected with it. I think people who work in the countryside, for instance, are still connected with it. You know, there's still farmers throughout England and I'm sure Wales and Scotland where they will still put out at harvest time. They'll put out milk and sort of things for the fairies, for the little people. Mm-hmm. And there's still a belief in the little people. Now, you know, that's daft to many. You know, you believe in fairies, you believe, you know. They don't. It's a question. Well, I'll tell. I went with some people called the Antrobus Mummers. Antrobus way out in the wilds of Cheshire, over towards Merseyside. And once a year, these guys, they perform the mumming play. Now, the mumming play is performed all over England, certainly. And it's the same with variations throughout. These guys, I would say the pure ones, because their grandfathers, great-grandfathers, way back, they did it, and there's still the same blood runs down from the mummers there. And each village had its own mumming play, and each one would have a horse's head, a skeleton of a horse's head, and they would decorate it, etc. And they would hide it after the mumming play of Halloween or at Christmas, whichever they did it at. Mm-hmm. And it was hidden because the other villages, the lads from the other villages would try and pinch it. And I went with the old. I'm sorry, I was part of one mumming play, but this one, the Antrobus Mummers, I went and they meet at the Antrobus Arms, the main pub in the village, and I went and I was trying to go out into the wilds of Cheshire with them that particular night, and they didn't really want to know me. I was getting in the way, and I sensed that. So, okay, fair enough, you know. Mm-hmm. And then there was one guy, he was playing Beelzebub, the devil, and he, the Lord of the Flies, his particular role in it had been taken by his grandfather, great-grandfather, etc., just like those. And I said to him, why do you do this? And he said, it's not a question of why we do it. It's a question of what would happen if we didn't do it. And
yeah, why take the chance?
Yeah, it's knocking on wood or walking under a ladder or anything. You know, don't believe it or but what happens if we don't do what we should? You know, that sort of thing. Anyway, the outcome of the Antrobus Mummers was they're fantastic guys, and they took me around. And there's some amazing stories about going around with them. A night to remember that was, I can tell you. But yeah, it's you know, some people still have that connection. What would happen if we didn't do this? What would happen if we didn't put the milk out for the fairies, for the little people?
Yeah.
They don't exist, perhaps, or perhaps they do. But, you know, what happens if we don't give them the milk? No, they'll get very angry. Or just in case, you know, we'll go along with it or whatever. And, yeah, that used to be the case. Still going on, but, you know, it's not cool to be believing in fairies and little people, for instance.
Oh, you'd be surprised. I mean, I used to live in a place called Appley Bridge, just on the outskirts of Wigan, and they've got like a little gorge there. and it's a beautiful place to walk the dog. It's like a natural gorge. It's not very big. It's probably 30, 40 feet across, but you can walk the dog up it, and it's called Fairy Glen. And you talk to the people. It's a community of probably a couple of 100 people, and you're walking the dogs back, and oh yeah, mate, you all right? Yeah, just been down the glen. See any fairies? Yeah, they're all out playing this morning, and that's the it goes on.
One thing locally to us. One thing locally to again myself and Doug, Rudyard Lake. Got a little wood round the back that's been done up. They've actually the community have put in fairy doors, fairies hanging from trees, and everything to make it a little bit more special for children. That's brilliant. That's brilliant to take the children to that and see the little faces light up. My daughter loves it there. Loads of children locally. Yeah, and local, Rudyard Lake, just round the back of it, from just the walk from round the boathouse and the cafe, and that's brilliant.
Wow. Very close to there is a place called Biddenau, and there's a legend there of the little people on the moor, and the little people were supposedly a race of tiny people, or smallish people, with dark skins and dark hair with huge saucer-like eyes who spoke a foreign language. And one of the traditions says that they were brought over with the Lord of the Manor brought them over from the Crusades, and they were Saracens or whatever. But another tradition or memory of these people is that they spoke a foreign language. Well, they still speak a foreign language there. I mean, you'll have heard Biddenau, and Dave, when locals speak, it's like anywhere in, let's say, in Essex or in Cornwall or wherever. When the locals really get together, they start the local brogue, as it were, and an outsider, deliberately, they cannot tell what they're talking about. There was a tale told by my ex-boss of the Congleton Chronicle, and he said when he went to school up there, a lad in the 1930s came up to him in the playground and said, "Well, they ain't got no three-eyed partner." And he said, "Pardon?" And he said, "We ain't got no three-eyed partner." And it turned out that what he was actually saying was, Wayne Gotten, we have got. Now, Gotten is still used in America. We took it over to America and it doesn't come back. So we've got a three-light partner, and the partner was a radio. So what he was saying is, we've got a new radio, it's got 3 lights on it. And it's a foreign language, if you don't know, and because every county in the country has got this foreign language. So I don't feel that's a bit odd, but this mysterious tribe on this moor, they just about 2 miles away, there's a place called The Cloud. It's a hill called The Cloud.
Right at the back of my house, Doug.
Is it? You can see, there you go. Well, there's an ancient Iron Age village up there, as you probably know, David. You can still see the circles of where the huts used to be. And the people who inhabited those huts thousands of years ago, 3,000-4,000 years ago, whatever, 5,000 years ago, were small people with dark skin and dark hair and saucer-like eyes. Just the same, 2 miles down the road as a crow flies, this tribe is supposed to be, and they kept themselves to themselves. Now, the listeners, the watchers, we call them what we want, the people who used to come down to the farms at harvest time and work for the farmer. The rest of the time, the farmers feared that they would pinch the children, the babies from them, and this, that, and the other. And, I wonder whether some of them are remnants of our psyche that still recalls, inside our genes, that still recall this small race, and we've got that in our minds. Whether that is something to do, hey, do the little people exist? Some people will laugh, and some people, I've got an auntie, same bloodline, of the Roaches bloodline, who, when she was a girl, went into the market in a nearby town, and she saw this little person pinching apple from a stall, and she went to tell the stallholder, and she got a friend with her, and the friend said to the stallholder, that little man over there, he's pinched an apple, and he ran away with the apple. And the story, apart from the fact they were walking back up the hills on the way home that night, and this little man was sitting on a wall. And he started kissing away at them. Why did you tell tales on me? The little man said, I'm going to punish you for this. I'm going to, you tell me, which finger of your hand don't you use at all? Hardly. And the girls laughed at him. He said, tell me. And so what the friend of my auntie said, my little finger. I said, okay, that's it. And her finger stiffened up, and she couldn't use it again, the little finger, ever, throughout her life.
Wow.
Now, is that power of suggestion again? The mind is a very, very strong instrument, if you like. And did she believe that would happen, or did that little person cast a spell on her? It happened that she was a milkmaid for the 2 cows that they got at the farm, and she found it very difficult to milk by hand after that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
very interesting stuff.
Yeah. So, what caused that? Perhaps, it's magic.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I hope it's magic.
Yeah. Well, what we're going to do now, Doug, we've still got loads we want to talk to you about. I know Dave's got things he wants to talk to you about, but we're going to go for a wee break, because we have to, bless him, because of Dave. Sorry, Dave.
When you get as old as Dave.
Well, we're going to play a tune for you, Doug. Dave said you'll like this, so I'm going to put it on. When we come back, we're going to do paranormal news. And then we're going to get into this a little bit more. So,
absolute magic, yeah.
About 5 or 6 minutes, and we'll be back. Don't go nowhere.
Lovely. Okay.
There you go. Just for you, Doug. It sounded a bit naff to us, hearing it here. But if you listen back to it on the show, we'll send you a link and you can have a listen back. It sounds a lot clearer to those people listening.
Thank you.
A bit of Lord of the Rings.
Richard Cassidy, just for you.
Really well. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Right, what we'll do now then, it's time for Dave's news, because I know he loves it. So I'm going to play you the news intro. Probably not, but I'll give it a go. Paranormal news.
You still haven't done the voice.
I haven't. I can't find a decent voiceover, so I'm just going to do it. Go on, crack on, mate.
And Tom Baker.
Yeah, I should do
it. Tom Baker do it.
I will. I'll have a word with him.
I want you to do it in the Stab Baker next week.
What? Put a big scarf on, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. No problem.
Get ready for spooky sights for the festive period at Epworth Rectory, which is said to be home of one of the 18th century's most famous ghosts. The case of North Lincolnshire's most famous ghost, the Epworth Rectory poltergeist, is investigated in a new book called Natural History of Haunted Ghosts by author Robert Clark. He believes the story of the Epworth ghost is one of the most famous Christmas ghost stories of the 18th century. The family of John Wesley, founder of Methodism, lived in Epworth Rectory during the 17 and 1800s as began to hear strange knocks, footsteps and groans coming from unoccupied parts of the rectory in the weeks leading up to Christmas in 1716. That'll be a homeless person then.
Mm-hmm. Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. Allegedly.
You can get away with anything as long as you say allegedly after it.
Allegedly, okay. Because I can use that. We'll probably get out clause forever now.
Yeah,
I'll be putting images on the Facebook group page as well, if you want to go with some of these stories. A UFO investigator believes he may have Scotland's great unexplained cases. Now, people who know about the Livingston UFO case 34 years ago, where a forestry worker, Bob Taylor, reported an incident involving alleged alien craft with two robot attackers. A gentleman now has published a report, which is available on an Amazon ebook, called Phil Fenton, claiming that it's actually a saucer-shaped water tower nearby. Those of you who do know ufology and know Malcolm Robinson,
who is coming on the show,
future guest, so we can actually discuss this with him for his viewpoint. Wrote a book, UFO Case Files of Scotland, and he's one of the leading authorities about the Livingston incident. He, for the Phil's report, it's very interesting hypothesis, which is very well put together, but it's one I don't adhere to myself.
Well, the bloke got his trousers slashed by these things that look like lambs rolling across the grass, didn't he? I mean, I think Malcolm still got the trousers, actually.
Does he wear?
Pardon?
Does he wear them?
He might do at Halloween.
Okay. Olivia Newton-John is living in a haunted house. Apparently the spirit of a guy who committed suicide in her mansion in Florida is haunting the property. She and her husband have been sprucing the place up before selling it and sealed the deal with Rosie O'Donnell, but she backed out fast when she heard about the suicide, deciding the house had bad vibes. Olivia hired a psychic to the dead man's spirit, and there you go.
Was that the news?
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay, right.
Come on, it's me. I'll be here all night now. Reese Rapea, Japanese news site focused on the strange and weird, posted a video of what seems to be a giant monster being dug out of the ground in Vietnam. In the video, the long, fat, grey, slug-like creature is surrounded by a crowd of curious onlookers watching with rapt attention as the horrifying behemoth is hoisted into a trailer. But what in the world could it be? A giant worm, an alien aggressor, a genetic experiment gone horribly wrong, or there are also suggestions that it was a whale.
I saw that.
We used to see human faces in everything from mountains on Mars to pancake batter, but two scientists have surprised to see a vision in a testicular tumour. The distressed face with a gaping mouth, and wait till you see this later, is spotted in an ultrasound scan of a 45-year-old man. Looks like somebody screaming out in pain.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic, that one.
Yep.
We talked last week about a gentleman called John Blackburn who was doing I said we talked about him. I'll give it mention and then got fed up talking about it, so I turned it off.
Mm-hmm.
In St. Ossif, anyway, he took part in Spooky Night in St. Ossif Witches Prison to raise money for charity. John of Paranormal Group Mysteria held a lone vigil at the cage in Colchester Road. The 500-year-old former village prison, which has been converted into a home, is where Ursula Kemp was in prison before being hanged as a witch in 1582. Mr. Blackburn, who claims the building is one of the most haunted locations in the country, held a vigil and seance on his own. What's that about? How do you do anything on your own? How can you identify anything of consequence taking place in the paranormal world as a professional without somebody there to bloody see it with you? Come on, you stupid Burke. How good am I? I've not swore once.
You're doing good.
Are we all psychic? Scientists believe that animals, including humans, have a collective consciousness. Behaviours found to spread through species, seemingly telepathically. These behaviours were adopted among groups that had never met. This led scientists to believe they spread via a collective consciousness. Blue tits and macaws, among species that share behaviours this way. A report in 2010 claimed to have proved humans have similar psychic skills. However, these claims have been dismissed, some scientists say, in recent reports. In where? I don't know where. Oh, where is where? Do you know where where is? Where's in Hertfordshire? A woman with a spotted and fluorescent oval-shaped object on Thursday while stargazing. She's reported this to the local newspapers who are currently running a story regarding that.
Mm-hmm.
A fireball has been witnessed streaking across the Oregon sky on Wednesday. Probably it wasn't alien in nature. Likely a contrail left in the wake of an aircraft, said one person. To me, it just looks like a bolide coming down to Earth or a piece of space junk. And we know space junk has come down because lately another satellite has been brought down to Earth.
Yeah.
And my favourite one of the week, police have moved to reassure the public over spooky clowns supposedly haunting the streets of Doncaster. Social media sites are awash with reports of people dressing up as clowns and prowling the streets in a bid to scare residents. But Rosington's Safer Neighbourhood team have quashed the reports and told parents to reassure their children. In a statement issued on its Facebook page, the SNT said, "We are aware of the number of reports circulating on social media of clown being seen on the streets of South Yorkshire. This is actually, I've looked into this a little bit, and there is a website where you can follow the clown, and this is occurring in most places in the UK and now have people dressing up in the streets dressed as a clown, and people are reporting these on this website. So there's all sorts of townships which is popping up. So
got one in our little place, yeah.
How funny is that? Pennywise running down the street.
Isn't it?
Fantastic. And that is the news.
Well, before we start chatting to Doug again, there's one I just want to quickly mention. I'll be very, very quick. Because I just saw it and it intrigued me because, wow, how weird is this? I mean, it's not paranormal, but I don't think it's paranormal, but it's just mad. It's the A3 ghost crash remembered 10 years on. And the report says it was the day after the Surrey Police press team's Christmas party, and no one expected to be spending it fielding calls about ghosts. However, Tuesday this week, December the 11th, was 10 years to the day since a frenzy of calls about a spooky apparition spotted on the A3 southbound near Guildford, welcoming them back to work, giving birth to a ghost story that has gone down in Surrey folklore. It all began on that dark December Sunday night in 2002 when a member of the public reported seeing a car lose control and leave the A3 around 100 metres before the emergency slip road at Burpham. Police were called to the scene to search for the wreckage but were unable to find any trace of a crash. That was until an officer stumbled upon a maroon Vauxhall Astra nose downing in a ditch covered in undergrowth. There was one errata though. The car had not crashed recently. In fact, it had lay undiscovered for 5 months, confirmed by the additional discovery of the decomposed body nearby. Hysteria greeted the findings as it was suggested in the national press that the sighting of the car leaving the road just the night before could only have been a ghostly replay of the fatal crash earlier in the year. This view was not shared by the Surrey police, with a spokesman insisting that the incident had only ever been treated as a regular road traffic collision, and the fact the car was obscured by leaves and branches most probably prevented it from being reported earlier. Even if the motorist had spotted the vehicle, she added, they may have assumed it was already being dealt with. Well, basically, this goes on to say that the driver, he was a runaway, basically. He was on the run from the law, and it was a skeleton sat in the driver's seat, and it had laid there for 5 months, decomposing, and but the freaky thing is that people said they saw the car crash, and it's going off the road, and they never find the wreckage. So there you go, A3 ghost crash.
There was one other former UKPN host, Darren Longhurst, tweeted to me this afternoon, a place over in America, a plantation which Ghostbusters had been in and set fire to and destroyed a historic building, totally took it to the ground with being their stupid paranormal idiot selves. So that's the only other one that I haven't brought up. Yeah,
it's an old sugar plantation, wasn't it, I think?
Mm-hmm.
And they burnt
Django had been on it, probably.
Yeah, could be. But there you go, that's the news. Doug, I hope you're still there, haven't lost the will to live yet. But
No, I was enjoying that. It was fascinating.
We always do our paranormal news, we love it. I know Dave, when we said about getting you on the show, I've got to ask him about the Bridestones, So Dave, you want to know all about that, isn't it?
Yeah, Doug, article I've written, it's been on the website, it's in my new book as well. I always cite yourself when you were in a Dragon Society. The gentleman who had experience when he was driving from Chester to back to or somewhere like that. Yeah. He had the potential alien abduction scenario where it was disclosed. I was just wondering if you could tell me in your words, save me telling it as a second-hand story, exactly what occurred regarding that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. The scenario is the Bridestones, Neolithic, prehistoric, obviously, remains a huge site at one time, destroyed, desecrated, plundered, raped, and pillaged until there's a couple of upright stones. There's a chamber. There is the hole where the body was buried. Anyone who's been to West Kennet Long Barrow, that's how it would have been. But they've used it for the roads. They've used it in a park in Stoke-on-Trent. They've used it at Biddle's Grange, a National Trust place, to do some of the gardens there. They've desecrated the place. Okay, so it's really a skeleton of its former self. I wrote in one of my books of this guy. He was in fact a bank manager, and he'd been on the old road that goes past this ancient site. It's an English heritage site now, so anybody can go to it. He didn't know this place existed, and he'd been from Week in North Staffordshire to Chester, where he'd been to a meeting. Now, the road that he took was known as the Earl's Way. It's the old road that the Earls of Chester used to go from Chester all the way across their domain to the furthest point of their ownership, which was this, we mentioned before, the place where Wade and the Green Knight was supposedly written, Jewel Cress Abbey. And it's known as the Earl's Way because of the Earls of Chester. And it's still the quickest way across Cheshire to get from Chester to Leeds. He drove to Chester. He stayed the day in Chester, and he did have a drink, and he was coming back about 10 p.m. And as he passed the vicinity of this ancient site, the Bridestones, named after Bridget, it's now Saint Bridget. He stopped because nature called. So he stopped the car, pulled up, and he was going into the hedge to hide his
modesty,
his personage. Yes, and he was aware of something behind him. He turned, and there was a light coming from the Bridestones, he says, and it came over towards him, and as it did so, it got brighter and brighter and brighter, and that's it. That's all he remembers until he came to start naked in the middle of a blackberry bush. He knew not where, in the pitch dark. And you can imagine if you start there, not that I'm sure not many people have done this, but if you were in, I would imagine if you start naked in the middle of a blackberry bush, you're not going to be a happy bunny at all. He was cut, and he was, his skin wasn't in a very nice state. And his immediate reaction was, I've been mugged.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all he could think of. And his second reaction was, well, I've got to go and hide because the muggers might still be around. So his eyes got accustomed to the darkness, and he could make out the shape of a tree. So he dashed out of the bush and to the tree, still stark naked, obviously. And he stayed there until dawn was appearing. The sun was just going up over the horizon, so he could see. And he saw that his car was still where he'd stopped it, in the road, which were probably a few hundred yards away. So he dashed to the road, with the thought of getting in the car and making a dash for it and escape. And he found his clothes all strewn across along the road, and cars had gone over. There were tire marks on his shirt, etc. He put what clothes he could find. He couldn't find his shoes. He put his shirt on. He got his trousers. He got in the car, and his keys were in the car, and he went away from the side. That's it. Now, he got home. He hadn't the faintest idea what time it was, and his wife was waiting for him, bless her. He knocked on the door and tried to fumble his keys. Now, imagine the sight. The wife opens the door, and she sees her husband, a bank manager, respectable person, cut scratches, from head to foot, literally. Shirt unopened with a tag mark across it, and his trousers just about round him. And she said something words to the effect of, welcome home, dear, or where the heck or what happened. You can imagine.
Yeah.
That sort of scenario, you go to shout at him, but glad he's home and everything. 5 a.m. It was just turned 10 when this incident happened. And he couldn't explain what had happened. He said, well, this is what happened. And he told her the truth. Now, bless her, she believed him. Yeah. And that was it. He told me about this. I happened to know him. And I said to him, well, do you mind if I put it in a book? And he said, well, I'm not saying it's anything. This is what happened. But I would like to know what actually did happen. So, yeah, as long as you don't mention the name, okay. That I did. This book came out Christmas. And it was given, a copy was given to a Mr. Goodfellow, what a great name, who is a farmer who owned the land upon which the Bridestones is. And afterwards, after Christmas, I got a phone call. I was working on the local paper there at the time, and I got this phone call. Oh, you that fellow who's written all this rubbish about the Bridestones? So I agreed straight away, but and he said, well, Luke, I've got to tell you, he said, this is all ridiculous. He couldn't have. And he said, if a car is outside my farmhouse, and they put the lights on. Well, the car headlights are going to shine up into the air, and that's what he saw. That's all there is to it. And I said, fair enough, no problem. He said, I'll tell you this. I never put cows in that field. They're pregnant. And I said, why? And he said, because they always abort. And there was, he mentioned a name, 1957 it was. I said, that was funny as well. And he was going past on a horse, and the horse bolted as soon as he got to the Bridestones, and he fell off and he was killed. And he reeled them off, happenings like this. He said, all local people, when they come to the Bridestones, they rush past as quick as they can. And he went on about this and that and the other. And I'd say I put it into a book, just as a chapter in a book. And obviously, people like Jenny Randalls, which I know a lot of people know, Jenny, for instance, and she was interested in it. She was in Bufora then. She was a leading light in Bufora, and she featured this. Now, no time at all has this chap said I was attacked by aliens or whatever. All he said is this is what happened to me. But to this day, people are still investigating that. He's not talked to anybody. He genuinely does exist. It's genuinely what happened to him, and that's all he will ever say, because that's all he can say. What happened? Who knows? Perhaps he was abducted. He's got an open mind on it, and he feels it's not for him to say anymore because he can't say anymore. But it definitely happened, and he's still at the scars to this day to prove it.
Wow.
That it did happen. Yeah.
So what do you think?
I'm lucky enough to have been, well, as I've said to Gary numerous times, Bridestones is 3 miles from my house, obviously.
Yeah.
Living at the back of the cloud.
Yeah.
And I've spent a lot of time up there. I've done some TV work up there with both Ghost Cases, the Canadian TV program, plus I've done some work with other people. And I know I was up there not long ago. Archaeologists were doing some new work on the field adjacent. And I've also looked into it in depth, the geological contents of the site, and found that the fault line that runs through Malcop and what have you, there's a branch that runs right through the field adjacent. And it's my belief, personally, that the GMF is affecting people who are at the site and whatnot. And a lot of the things people are witnessing, the GMF-wise, and that would make sense with the animals that wants to go to the site as well. So
it would, and it's very interesting, Dave, that you've mentioned Malcop. Malcop is another hill, famous for hills around there, which has a folly, a castle, a folly on the top. It's a place that attracted the ranters, the religious people of the 1700s and 1800s. It's a place that borders Cheshire and Staffordshire. It's a place where there are healing wells, etc., etc. But most interestingly, for the Bridestones is not on top of a hill, or it's in an odd spot. It's on the side of a hill. And a friend of mine called Kevin Kilburn, who was a big friend of Sir Patrick Moore, and he works at Joddle Bank, and he's made a study of some alignments of the Bridestones, and only if you stand at the Bridestones at midwinter, the sun will rise over Malcop, over the top of the hill, and if you were to take a time-lapse photograph of the sun rising and setting throughout the year to midsummer, it will go across the vision, the horizon that you can see from the Bridestones, and it finishes at midsummer on another hill at a place called Marton, which is in Cheshire, and there's a very old black and white timbered church there. Near to the Martin Oak, the oldest oak.
That's where I got married.
Oh, yeah, lovely place. Lovely place. And, and midsummer, the sun sets there. So obviously the Bridestones themselves have been placed there by whoever built them for that, amongst other things, for that sunrise, sunset, the midwinter and the midsummer. So it's interesting that you mentioned Malcott there. So the fault line from Malcott to there, you know, is it a fault line? Is it a ley line? What's the difference, Dave?
Yeah, I agree.
The energy forces within the ground. There's undoubtedly energy forces there. There's undoubtedly energy forces which have been put in by people over the years, centuries, hundreds of centuries, and it was undoubtedly a place for them to build there. And in the first instance, it was something not just the alignment of the sun, but you get a tingle. I know a guy called Mike Oldham, the late Mike Oldham, a great person. I'll tell you about him in a minute. He used to get electric shocks there, and he will be asked by people, Mike, can you go to the Bridestones and show you electric shocks? And he found himself in a situation where sometimes he couldn't say no, and he had to drive to this magical place and touch the stones to show people that he got electric shocks from it. I've never known it happen to anybody else. I tried it. I didn't get a shock from it, but you get some vibes from it, my word, as you probably have, Dave.
Again, regarding the Bridestones, while we were actually doing an investigation on the site in winter about 7 years ago, we picked up some EMFs in the tomb itself. And as you know, Doug, it's like a vessel. It's the floor, and it's got the four sides perfectly. And we were picking up an EMF reading within that, so obviously there's some form of electricity in the area. Related to what you say about people getting electric shocks. And we've done some research, contacted some people from Manchester University, from Keele University and other departments around the UK, other geologists, and we were lucky enough to get back information. And one gentleman in particular, Neil Moore from Manchester University, suggested that area of the tomb itself, where we were picking up the EMF, with the potential of the fault line in the adjacent field, energy was being stored within the section of the tomb itself, therefore acting like a battery, which is why we were able to pick up EMF. When you talk about energy and tombs and things like that, and things being built in areas of ley lines, is it a ley line? Is it just an area of natural energy caused by the fault lines, which is causing the tomb to become energized? In the sense that, in this case, it's acting like a battery.
Yeah. That's a very, very good point you made there, Dave. What is a ley line? It's different things to different people, isn't it? I mean, we all know about the straight track and Alfred Watkins, etc., in Herefordshire, who thought they were just lines on the map, if you like. But we know that they're far more than that. They are sources of energy, if you like, which people used to be able to tap into and still can. I mean, you can do that housing, and it can be a force of good. It can be a force of evil as well. I mentioned a guy called Mike Oldham, the late Mike Oldham. We lived in a certain house, and Mike Oldham and his wife came to live next door. We didn't know them from Adam. But he knocked on the door one day, one afternoon, on a front door, and just my wife opened the door, and he said, "I believe you know about ley lines." And she said yes, and he said, "Well, so do I. Can I have a word?" And the first thing I would shook hands, and I said, how do you know we know about ley lines? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? And that's all he said. And I love that sort of mystery, And it transpired that Mike had been asked to clear what he called a cancer village. I won't mention the village, but it was a village where an abnormal number of people suffered from cancer. Let's say the norm for that number of people would be, say, 10% of the population. Well, this was 70% of the population. And he went along with his gambling odds, and he soon realised that, there was an abnormality there in the fault line there. So the reason he came round to my house was to ask if I would help him to divert the ley line to the black line. Now, I'm sure you know, Dave, it's difficult because if you divert a line, it's got to go somewhere, and some other poor devil will find themselves on the receiving end of it. So that is the last thing we wanted to do. Copper tubes were the answer. You know, the radiator, the plumbing tubes, and we found ourselves placing these at regular intervals around the village, and then it came out the other end and it went back onto its same route, if you like. Now, I wouldn't say that one person there was cured of cancer, but I can say that the abnormal number of people suffering from cancer ceased, and it became the national norm, if you like, within a year. And those people who were suffering from cancer, they didn't get better. Some did get better, some didn't. Nature took its course, if you like, but the newcomers, the new sufferers of it were very much in the minority, not the majority. So this was what Mike did. He did this not for a living, and he would never take money for it. He was a guy that, 1989, there was a terrible flood in a place called Wildboar Clough, up in the hills below Buxton, etc., in Derbyshire. A lovely beauty spot, and there was a stream that comes down called Clough Stream, and there was a flash flood up on the moors, up on the grouse moors up there, and the flow of water came down, and I'm not exaggerating, it was 25 feet to 30 feet deep when it came down the clough, this stream, the valley. All the bridges were knocked away, houses were knocked down, roads were uplifted. Unfortunately, one of the motorists was killed, he was drowned. It was devastation, and the police just cordoned off the place for days and days and days. I was working on the paper, and so I tried to be the first up there. The police wouldn't let us in for days. When it was safe enough to go there, I went in, and there was a stream. It had subsided, and there was a guy wading in the water with jam jars in his hand, 2 jam jars, and he was getting the silt from underneath. This was mine, and he filled his jam jars with silt. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, my father was a herbalist. He had a herbalist shop, and there were many of them in those days. Most towns had at least one herbalist shop." And he said, "Well, if ever the wild boar flows, then you must use that silt." And he mentioned something mainly skin complaints. And he said, "Now, there's a little baby, a 6-month-old baby, who's got terrible rashes all over, and I'm going to put this on." And he did. The whole story is short. He put this silt on the baby, and I promise you, because I saw the before and afters, that baby's skin got better within 2 weeks. And what a great leap of faith of Mum and Dad to allow this strange man, this strange old man, to put mud, if you like, on baby, you know. But they believed in him, and they let him do it, and it worked. Now, Wild Boar Clough is supposed to be the last place that the wild boar roamed in Great Britain. May or not be true, but that wild boar is spelled B-O-A-R. And I noticed that it was used to be spelled B-O-R-E. We heard of the Bristol boar, the seven boar, where
the wave.
The wave, the giant wave that comes up, the boar. Yeah. Well, I reckon that's why this place was called Wild. It was the place of the wild boar, the wild water, if you like, and nothing to do with the piggy-wig. Yeah. But it did work. Now, this happens very infrequently, like every 30 or 40 years. So we've got about 20 or 30 years to go before it happens again. So a long way. So if anybody's got a skin complaint, I go to the chemist and not hope for anything from up there. But if ever it does happen, again, try the silt.
Grab me jam jars.
Definitely. You never know. Get your jam jars. Yeah.
One of the other things I wanted to ask you, Doug, you recently took part in an ITV production regarding the Moors murders. Now, I know it's not a pretty thing to talk about. It's very difficult for a lot of people, obviously. But can you tell the listeners a little more about the potential connection between the roaches that we discussed earlier and Mr. Brady and his ever-lovely friend? Yeah,
okay. I will. Now, it started for me when I was, again, a cub reporter, shortly after seeing the witches on Audley Edge, really, that sort of era, a bit later, a couple of years later. And Brady, the scenario was, as everybody knows, these missing children, they finally discovered that Brady and Hindley were this evil pair who've been responsible for them. I've got to say, there are many other children buried around there who were killed by Brady and Hindley. And if they want to sue me, they can. Hope we do. Well, she won't. She's dead, allegedly. Mm-hmm. That's another story. But I've written to be anyway. I covered the story. The original trial, the committal proceedings, over in Eastern Manchester, when the nearest court to where they were arrested. And well, I've got to say, number one, that I've never ever seen two people who exuded evil as those two. And people came out of the courtroom visibly shaking from just looking at them. But the most horrendous, horrible, horrific thing, as far as I was concerned, is that afterwards they played the tape of the little girl who was abused by Brady and eventually murdered by Brady, and they tape recorded her pleas. She called them Mummy and Daddy at one time, and she and for Hindley, the female accomplice, to say she had nothing to do with it, it disproved all the lies. It disproved all the lies she'd been telling, because she's on tape telling her to do these certain things. Now, that in itself is bad enough, but they decided they were going to put onto this tape Harry Belafonte singing Little Drummer Boy. Now, I have no idea why they should choose that, but they did. So while they were abusing this little girl and murdering her, the tune Harry Belafonte's The Little Drummer Boy was being played on the gramophone record. I still, to this day, cannot listen to that. I went in a couple of years, last year, to a store, I think it might have been a Hardhouse. It was somewhere, anyway, and they were playing, as you do, Little Drummer Boy, and, all the Christmas songs. And I just had to go out of the store. I just could go in. And it affected me. It didn't just affect me, it affected a lot of people, anybody who got anything to do with it. Right, so that's water on the bridge, if you like. But I've written to the guy on many, many occasions. I have letters from him back, which some people won't even touch, I've got to say, because those letters on lined notepaper written with a biro, they exude evil. And if anything can be passed on to an inanimate object, this is proof that it can, because there are people who just cannot touch those letters at all. And I have to keep them away out of the house and, in a shed, because, I wouldn't bring them in my grandchildren to be part of or anything. So anyway, he wrote this book, a pathetic book, Brady, that is, and in it he was talking about the wonders of the hills and how he went for spiritual upliftment amongst the hills. In the meantime, there was a program by a guy called Duncan Staff, who I know he's an he's still a journalist and investigative reporter, and he was given what was called the Tartan album of photographs. He was given it by Myra Hindley's mother, and the TV program, not the one I was in, was aired a few years ago, and it was called The Moors Murders Code, because it was obvious that snapshots of Brady and Hindley with their dog, who they cried tears and tears over when the dog was put down, but never cried once over the children. They were, it seemed, indicating where the graves of their victims were by the fact that one of them was standing on the grave with the dog and looked down. And the police found a couple of the children's remains as a result of this. They were all thought to be on Saddleworth Moor, where the first bodies had been discovered. And I went up there 2 or 3 times as a young reporter when the searches were on. And I watched this program because obviously I've had a lot to do with it over the years. And I thought, I know those places, those rocks, unmistakable. They weren't Saddleworth Moor. They were, I was talking earlier about the Roaches, where my family is, and, the rocks in the Southern Peak districts of Derbyshire and Staffordshire. And, well, it was there, and it wasn't Saddleworth Moor. I told the police. I sent a letter off to Greater Manchester Police, one to Staffordshire Police, one to Derbyshire Police. I didn't get acknowledgements even from some of them. I got acknowledgements that they were aware of this. It transpired that when the search was on for bodies, the police did investigate that particular neck of the woods in Saddleworth, not Saddleworth, but then went on to Saddleworth Moor and found the others. Now, as you're probably aware, there is one child, Keith Bennett, whose remains never found. I was able to identify a number of spots, and there's been quite a bit of geophys action up there to try and to find graves, etc. I've had a number of people come forward to me now. I've had a chap only recently to take me up to a spot where he swears he saw Brady and Hindley burying something. And Keith's mum, bless her, she's now died. She died, was it earlier? No, it was late last year. She wanted Brady to tell her where the grave of Keith, her son, was. And he wouldn't. He's got that control, that possession, and the program I was in was called Possession, because he still got that power of holding it over. And now, when his mum went to her grave, not knowing where Keith's body was. However, it's not very well known, but Winnie was a spiritualist, and she'd had a number of messages about unknown, she didn't know where this place was, about the roaches, and, as I mentioned, and not Saddleworth Moor. And she went up to the roaches on 2 or 3 occasions, and I and a person called Norrie Miles, who was a paranormal investigator, she lives in Portsmouth now, she was at Southampton, and she came up, she went to Winnie's funeral, she actually gave the dedication at Winnie's funeral, and with her, and we've done quite a few searches. Winnie was convinced that her son was on the roaches, and the last time she was going up, I waited for her on the roaches. She was going to come up, and unfortunately, the cancer that she had taken over, and she wasn't able to make it. So I didn't see her that day. She died the following day. But a number of people have gone up to the moors since then. Very, very well-meaning people, supernatural investigators, spiritualists, mediums of all shapes, sizes, and descriptions. And from a paranormal point of view, it appears that there is a lot on those hills, more than meets the eye. Winnie was convinced that her son was there, and maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I just wish that when she was alive, we could have found it for her, but we didn't. We weren't able to.
One thing that sickened me just after Winnie passed away, obviously I'm 40 next year, I'm too young to know the intricacies, but I've read the books and seen the documentaries. One thing that sickens me was the wave of alleged psychics proclaiming they knew the whereabouts of the bodies. One I've just shared on the Zone Unknown Facebook page of a gentleman who was proclaiming that he knew where the body was. He'd spoken to his psychic energy, whatever, and he claimed that he was going up there. And following on from that, his story, which he was putting all over Facebook, and him and a horde of followers went up to Saddleworth Moors, in the area where he claimed that his spirit guide told him where the body was. And they all had shovels and such like, and that sickened me to the point that I actually had to contact Greater Manchester Police to report that issue. I've sent them all the details, and I screen grabbed it and everything, and I've just put it onto the Zone Unknown site so people can actually see that. But yeah, as you say, you know,
there are a lot. Well, I was on this ITV program, Dave, a couple of months ago now. It's called Possession, and as a result of that, I got 22 mediums contact me. 22 from all over the country. They all knew where this lad was, you know, all in different places. I mean, if one of them was right, 21 of them were wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think some of it is that they want to be. I mean, what fantastic advert for them, the person who found Keith Bennett. You know, wow, what great. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that was why we're doing it. You know, they're probably very, very, very well-meaning people.
No. All mediums do everything selflessly, Doug. We all know that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, who am I to say otherwise? But you know, it was an interesting part of the aftermath of the show, if it was a show, and it was interesting. Let's just leave it to that. But but still think that some good will come out of it. Mr. Brady obviously saw the television programme because he hasn't communicated with me since, so I've obviously offended him, thank goodness. But it is an interesting exercise to see what evil people can and what powers people can manipulate others with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were talking about the evil eye. Now Brady has got the evil eye. He sent shivers down people just looking at him.
Yeah.
So these people who still do practice, I wouldn't say the evil arts, but these people who still practice possession over others, you know, there are many of them. Many of them. I mean, we saw the Second World War and the consequences of the Nazis, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how evil can take over. And it still does in many countries now, and many people in Bosnia and places like that. You know, so normal people suddenly become horrific, horrendous people, and it's power.
Well, we've got plenty to talk about for another show, Doug. Unfortunately, time has raced away with us, and I don't want to go off the air without telling people about some of the books. I mean, there's loads of books you've written. Staffordshire, Macclesfield, Mysteries and Macabre, Magic Myths and Memories in and around the Peak District, Portrait of Macclesfield, Cheshire, it's Magic and Mystery, Earth Mysteries of the Three Shires. The list goes on, guys. Put Doug Pickford in Google search and it comes up. It's on Amazon. It's on all the good places. Have a read. It's fascinating stuff. Doug, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Please come back.
Well, I've enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a great show you've got. And congratulations on it. It's fantastic.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you very much. We'll let you go. Thank you once again for joining us, and I hope to talk to you again really soon. Thank you very much.
I'm going to have a cuppa. Thank you.
Yeah, you do that.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again, Doc.
Bye-bye, Doug. Bye-bye. Right, guys, all that's really left for us to say is that join us next week where we've got Mark Magsaysay all the way from the United States going to join us. He's a paranormal enthusiast. He's worked with some great people. He's a scream. He's a great laugh. So we're going to take it back to Paranormal 101 next week. Join us at the same time. Thank you very much, Dave. Enjoyed that, did you?
It certainly did, Gary. Thank you very much.
Right, and I'll speak to you guys soon. You take care. Bye-bye for now.
Good night, everyone.